Great. So my name is Councillor Jumeirah Hussain. I'm a councillor up in Farley Ward. I also happen to be the vice chair of Luton Rising, which is the Luton Borough Council's airport company that owns your community airport and associated assets. I also am very privileged to also be the portfolio holder for education, employability and skills. Just before we begin, just a few housekeeping rules. This event is recorded, just so you know, and I hope that's all right with everybody. Also, the fire alarm is not due for testing, so if there is a fire alarm, please walk calmly to the nearest exits. The assembly point is at the front of the building between the postgraduate centre and the business school. The toilets on this floor are located in the cafe area. And then finally, please take a moment to silence your phones. I hope they're on the silence, right? So, hello everyone. So I'm really excited to be here with you all to talk about something that's changing the world and something you can all be part of. And this is something that's actually close to my heart as well. STEM, so that's science, technology, engineering and mathematics. So when you use your phone, your favourite game updates, when a plane flies overhead, when someone builds a robot, designs a bridge or finds a way to fight climate change, that's all STEM. Today the world is changing fast. Artificial intelligence, clean energy, aerospace, medical technologies, these aren't distant trends. These are jobs and industries that are growing here and now in this region, particularly in our town. They need people from all backgrounds with the skills to think critically, solve problems and innovate. When we talk about STEM, science, technology, engineering and mathematics, we're talking about the engines of progress, and that's particularly relevant here in Luton. In Luton, a town, we pride ourselves on our industrial past and our growing future. STEM is more than just a school subject, it's the foundation of opportunity, innovation and economic strength here at our own doorstep. But here's the truth. For far too long, women and girls have been underrepresented in these fields, and I'm sure you all agree with me. And yet we've always been here, writing the first algorithm, to Katherine Johnson calculating NASA flight paths, to women engineers and scientists solving today's biggest challenges. Women have shaped STEM, even when history didn't always give them the spotlight. Research indicates that women in STEM fields demonstrate greater confidence in emotion and ethical literacy, while at the same time critical transferable skills in STEM careers. Other highly valuable transferable skills in STEM include collaboration, communication, problem solving, and analytical thinking, which are essential for innovation and success. Entry into STEM at all ages can be achieved through various routes, including certifications, apprenticeships, on-the-job training, and gaining experience in technical and non-technical roles with tech companies. So you don't have to always need a degree to work in the STEM field. That's really important. But here in Luton, we have a real opportunity. As you all know, Luton is at the heart of the Golden Triangle and in a strategic location, combined with a bold growth agenda which brings together long-term benefits for all our residents. With outstanding infrastructure, excellent access and development, skilled workforce, it supports economic growth sectors such as engineering, logistics, transport, aviation, aerospace, sustainability. So we are basically a town built on innovation. But we can't talk about innovation if we're leaving half of our talent behind. The future of Luton's economy depends on making STEM accessible, inclusive and welcoming to everyone, particularly to our women and girls. So let me highlight some of the programs in Luton already helping to make this happen. Here, at our very own University of Bedfordshire in Luton, there is a STEM building which includes modern, well-equipped equipment labs, workshops for engineering, robotics and life sciences, and an outreach centre designed to promote science and engineering in local schools. At Barnfield College, we have a new 38 million construction and engineering centre that sets a new standard in technical and training facilities. And we can't forget our very own Morton House, a skills and innovation and business hub that recently opened. Designed with green skills in mind, these state-of-the-art buildings come equipped with cutting-edge technology to prepare our students and residents for the modern job market. These facilities combined help prepare and provide women with hands-on opportunities, accessible infrastructure and role models in labs and research. So Luton is full of talent, but our town and our future needs more girls to join and help shape our town. As the leaders of infrastructure, as the leaders of innovators in STEM fields, we need our girls and women to design safer hospitals, code new apps, protect the planet, build flying cars, and maybe even solve the climate crisis. So why couldn't this be you? You don't need to be perfect at maths. You don't need to have straight A's. You just need to be curious, creative, and willing to try. Engineering is about solving problems. Science is about asking questions. Technology is about building cool stuff. Maths helps you be smart and make smart decisions. Empowering women in STEM doesn't just benefit women, it benefits all of us. More diverse voices means better ideas, better innovation, and stronger local communities, particularly here in Luton. So to every local girl that's here, wondering if STEM is for her, yes, it most definitely is for you, and we do need you. And to every woman here looking to retrain, you can transfer into a STEM career by leveraging transferable skills. And yes, we also do definitely need you. And to everyone else, your support and your encouragement matters. So let's build an inclusive town where every woman has a chance not to just enter the STEM, but to lead it. And I'd like to close by a quote by somebody called Elizabeth Blackwell, who was the first English-American physician. None of us can know what we are capable of until we are tested. Thank you. And now it gives me great pleasure and great privilege to invite onto the stage to Nasreen Ali, who will be chairing the panel.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. Yeah, the technology is working. That's great. Thank you, Javeria, for that introduction, and welcome to the University of Bedfordshire and to this Women in STEM panel. My name is Dr. Nasreen Ali. I'm a Professor of Public Health Equality at the University. My research at the University focuses on the intersection between gender, ethnicity and health. And I lead something called the Talk, Listen, Change, or TLC programme. And this sort of aims to address disparities in the workforce development, as well as inequalities in other areas of public health. And what's really important and very relevant for today is that the approach that we're taking within this research programme is that it privileges lived experience and voice. So, you know, what better way? Oh, well, I guess I'm really thrilled to really host today, because that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be talking to our brilliant panellists and hearing about their lived experiences. And these women are really truly inspiring. I've only had a chance to meet them very briefly, but already I've been listening into their conversations, really inspiring women who are breaking barriers, building solutions, and really shaping the future of STEM. So, STEM is not really a one-size-fits-all journey, and you'll understand that a little bit more. It's sort of dynamic and evolving. It's an evolving space filled with innovation, challenge, impact. And today's panellists are really living proof of that. And also they're going to demonstrate how, you know, powerful that diverse experience can be, and those different paths can be. We're going to hear their stories, their lived experiences through their voices, and how they chose their fields, or how their fields chose them. We're going to talk about or listen to the challenges that they faced, especially as women in those spaces that, as Javeria said already, tend to be male-dominated. And we're going to hear about how they've had to fight to be seen and to be heard. And importantly, what advice have they got for others, whether you're thinking about a career in STEM, starting your own company, or simply looking for a little bit of inspiration today. We hope that you'll get that. So what to expect today then, or this morning? We'll begin with each panellist introducing themselves and talking about their academic and professional journey so far. Then we'll have a discussion where I'll ask our panellists some questions about their journeys and ask them to give us some insights about that journey. After that, I'll open up for Q&A. So keep your questions ready, as you're hearing our panellists. And our goal today is really to inspire and inform. And our panellists come from a wide range of disciplines, so lots, different backgrounds. And hopefully, they do represent the future of STEM and, represent excellence in their own fields and in terms of leadership, creativity and vision. So, we're going to have hopefully a really good morning of discussion. So can I ask the panellists to come up. I'll introduce you, and then if you come up and take your seats. So Captain Sanai Gibson, who is a commercial airline pilot and captain with over 5,000 total flight hours, including 1,000 hours as a pilot in command, leading both in the skies and in a field that is still dominated by men. So welcome, Sana. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And next is Angelina Aziz. Can I ask you to come up to the stage? So Angelina is a software engineer and tech entrepreneur, founder of an AI company using technology to help people succeed in one of the most critical parts of their careers, the university and job interviews. So welcome, Angelina. Next is Elisa Dubois. An aircraft engineer working behind the scenes to ensure that what goes up stays up. I'm glad, because I'm about to go on a flight soon. Specialises in training and safety management systems. Elisa, and her team is working to ensure the aircrafts that we depend upon are reliable, safe, and future ready. So I'm really reassured by that. And lastly, but not least, is Dr. Susan Isaac. So Susan is a former scientist turned leadership coach who now empowers others to lead with confidence and authenticity. So welcome to our panel. We're going to start our discussion, and I'd like to start with our asking our panelists to introduce yourselves through your own voices and give our audience a little bit of background about who you are and what you do. I know I've given a little bit of a brief introduction, but let's hear it from yourselves.
Test? Yeah, I think people can hear me now. Hello everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the team here for the opportunity to join and to share my experience today. I think lifestyles or life choices really get shaped on days like these. But most importantly, we were talking earlier about whether you were doubting to join a career in STEM. Well, you're already here, so that's a good start. And so basically, to kick off the introduction, my name is Sanai Gibson. I am from the Netherlands, 30 years old now, and indeed I've been flying in the captain position for a company called Wizz Air, probably about 2 years now in the captain position, but before that I joined the company back in 2017. So when I was in school, basically a lot of my friends chose to go into the STEM direction, and my best friend really wants to be a doctor. She was very adamant. She's 2 years older, so I was kind of following her lead. I thought, okay, well, my maths isn't particularly great, but I could probably work on that. All the other topics really interested me. And at the same time, my brother was always playing a game called Flight Simulator at home. So often at home at the dinner table, my dad was making jokes about where he was flying the plane to today, because it was just a multi-pilot, right? So he was just flying the plane on the computer from A to B, and he was talking about which airplane he chose that day, and always sharing his interest and passion for that industry. So there I was, around about 16. I chose my STEM subjects, and I was adamant I wanted to be a doctor. Then when you come to graduate high school in the Netherlands, there was a bit of a sort of lottery system to get a place in the university. And unfortunately that year I didn't get a place. So I had to choose something else that year, but it was already midsummer, and I thought, I've got to learn something. I can't get away with getting a year of nothing. Although some people might do, but my parents definitely did not approve. So yeah, I thought, right, what shall I do? I was always playing with the idea of flying, but I never really did anything with it. My brother bought me a flying lesson for my birthday, more because he wants to do it, not because I was interested. So that happened that summer. I went and did this flying lesson, and I did think, this is amazing, but the industry is quite a challenge. You can't just get a job, and flight training is very expensive. You don't quite know whether you'll get a job straight after it. You don't know whether you'll be good enough to get recruited into a job. So there's a lot of hesitation there. So I went down the university path and I joined a degree in biology. Now, I've got a lot of respect for people in biology, but it was definitely not one of the best decisions I've made in my life. I dropped out after 3 months, and after a couple of pep talks from friends, they said, basically, you've got to apply for flight school. Just give it a go, because you keep talking about that lesson that you've done. And yeah, I think it's a little bit as well, during that particular lesson, the instructor was very encouraging. He said, oh, actually, you've got a hand for this, you've got a bit of talent. So that kind of stuck with me, and I thought, well, he didn't say that for no reason. So there I went, off to Oxford, applied for flight training, and I failed at maths. So I came back in tears, but with the support of my parents, I sat down. I was told to come back in a month and try again. I sat down for a good 2-3 weeks and just practice and practice and practice. Came back with a lot more confidence, because I knew now what I had to do to get the job done, and got the position at flight school. So that's me at 19, emigrated to the Netherlands, moved into the UK, and was sharing a house with, guess what, a bloke, because there's not many women that were at flight school. So straight away my peers were men, and I can say with a lot of confidence that I wouldn't be the person I am today without the men that were in my life. Towards the end of flight school, I met my partner, now husband. We went separate ways to find our first jobs, and eventually I found my job with Wizz Air. That was my second job in aviation. We got together. He joined me shortly after, and yeah, we had a little girl 2 years ago. I realised, my goodness, I'm 30 now, I'm soon to become airline captain, I've got all that responsibility. What else can I do with my life? Because it doesn't just stop there, surely. And I joined for a degree at the University of West London for an airline management degree. So who knows what the next 30 years will bring, but that master's is in the pocket now. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be taken from that introduction. It's probably a bit long, but I think what we take home from that is don't stop moving, keep pushing yourself, even if life lets you down. Yeah, just keep pushing, because those job interviews, they are tough, and those choices that you make are going to be tough, and you'll always question yourself whether it was the right choice, but if you don't try it, you won't know. So.
That's really interesting. Angelina, thank you.
Yep, I'm happy to start waffling. My name is Angelina, I'm 24, and I work as a software engineer, and now I run my own company helping people prepare for interviews. A little bit about how I got into this is also kind of equally ridiculous in terms of like a flight simulator game, where like the media around you really matters. So when I was younger, I was a big fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! And in Yu-Gi-Oh!, if you're familiar, there's a guy called Seto Kaiba, and he has like this whole room of like computers, and like he's like a computer whiz, that's kind of his thing. And I saw that at like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6. It's like, whoa, that is so cool. Like, that is something that I absolutely, like, that's just so fascinating to me. Which is weird, because like, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh! There's monsters and actually cool things, and probably the computers were the coolest thing there. But that kind of like inspired the path that I went down later on. So I kind of always really liked computers. We had like, maybe show my age a bit, but like back in the days, we used to have the big family computer upstairs in like one room, and on that family computer, me and my brother were always fighting for like who could get more time on the computer. And essentially, I used to love like spending my time on that computer, doing like anything that I could find, video editing, and then I like slowly kind of learned, oh, there are things like building websites. I built my first couple of websites on like WordPress or Wix or whatever it was, and I thought, oh, this is kind of boring, like I want to do something more exciting. And then I learned, oh, you can actually like build and program your own websites. And then that's when things got really cool. But essentially I went to school at Tony as well. And while I was at Tony, like I used to, you know, have a little bit of fun, mess around. I was always kind of academic, but I never took it very seriously. And I think in order to encourage me, one of my teachers, who was my physics teacher, essentially was like, hey, like you're interested in computers, it's like very obvious. We have a Raspberry Pi in the like school that nobody is using. Like literally, it just sat there. I think they had like 3. Nobody used them, and she just handed me one. Don't know if she was allowed to do that, but she just gave me one. And from there, I kind of just started like programming and like building little things. And I was like, okay, this is the path I want to go down. Like I was kind of very firm from like 12 that I wanted to be a software engineer, but I didn't know any software engineers. Like I had no one in my family, in my like friend circle, anybody that was even remotely kind of interested in the same thing. But thankfully YouTube exists. So I loved YouTube, and I used to like watch day in the lives of like software engineers at like gaming companies, or then I like discovered, oh, you can work at like Instagram and Meta and things like that. And then from there, it was like, okay, I did well in my GCSEs through no effort of my own, like it just thankfully happened. And then I went to A-levels and continued to like kind of just wing it. It did not work for my A-levels, unfortunately. I missed out on my university offers. So I was supposed to go to university to study computer science, and my offers were like A-star AA. I very much missed out on them, and I was kind of like, oh no, my life's over, like what do I have to do now? Like I have to take a gap year, like nobody I knew had really taken a gap year. Is this like a viable option? And then I kind of just like started exploring what I could do, and then I realized, oh, I kind of already know how to program, so why would I go to university to learn it again? So I decided to do an apprenticeship where I could just like learn on the job and earn money at the same time. So to go from like beginner level programmer to hopefully a little bit better. So I started to do an apprenticeship at a place called Bank of New York. I was not in New York, unfortunately, it was in London. But I started my apprenticeship out there, realized, okay, like absolutely I'm not going to like uni, this is like amazing, I'm sold. Like, okay, I made the right decision, this is the career I want to do. And then from there, I just kind of continued to like grow as an engineer. I switched jobs, so I finished my apprenticeship and I switched jobs. And as soon as I joined my new job, my boss was kind of like, oh, you did an apprenticeship. Do you want to do a master's? And I was like, no, I don't have a degree, like I can't do a master's. He was like, no, like you can. And I was like, okay, I'll think about it. And then like a year into that job, I was like, okay, I'm a little bit bored now, like, let's do the masters. So I started my masters. But at the same time when I started my masters, I also started a company with a now friend, but at the time we didn't really know each other. So I started a company with a dentist who I met through like a networking event. And we both were really passionate about like interviews, because we'd both been generally quite good at interviews, but we knew a lot of our friends and peers were like incredibly smart, like way smarter than us, but they were not good at interviews. And it meant that they were missing out on a bunch of opportunities. Specifically for him, he went to dental school, and dental school is like very competitive to get into in the UK. So essentially we kind of speed ran starting a company together. It was like the age of AI, so we built a company to help people get into medical and dental school and practice their interviews and get AI feedback on their performance. Essentially, when the company was around like 6 or 7 months old, we were doing it on the side, and we applied for what was like venture funding, which is essentially somebody buys a part of your company and they give you money based on like what they think that company could be valued at. And we kind of did it expecting nothing of it, like it was a company we were working on the side for like 6 months. But we got funding from an American venture company that valued the company at like £3 million, which again was ridiculous. Like the company was like 6 months old, but they gave us money to help us continue to build out. So I think we gave them like 6% of the company or something, and they gave us £120,000 to help us build kind of the company further. And essentially that's what I've been doing since then. That was again quite long.
I've gone through the path of the quite a challenging experiences and differences and changes. And I embrace that all of the change and all of the path and the journey I had. I become a microbiologist because I've seen when I was a teenager the article about the molecular engineering and making the vaccine for AIDS and prevention of the AIDS, and I become really passionate to become a molecular biologist and gene engineer. And I followed that path. I made the vaccine for coronaviruses in 2006 during my PhD. And I've been in research development for many years. I helped the healthcare organization to create the vaccine, to change the policies. And then I decided to go to the commercial side because the challenge for the research development is gone, but passion for science was there. And I gone to the commercial side. I become a product specialist for my health and cancer products. I traveled around the world, worked with very inspiring people, very intelligent people, and help healthcare organization, patients to end suffering. What I learned, we can help the physical pain to go away with drugs, with helping them, with giving them some treatment. But what about the pain we have mentally? And that's how I just end up to deciding to become a coach and consultant. To help leaders. Those leaders, they are leading the teams. The leadership is within each of us. And tap to that leadership to become the best version and to help others and help organization, help the world to become a better place to live. And that's what I'm passionate about. I left science not behind. Science made me a better person for me and for others. And today I'm using all those journeys, all those experiences, and what I would like you as a young girl here sitting down and listening to us, don't be afraid of doing something great, being you. Don't stop learning. Don't stop to believing in yourself. And that's what you need to do. Because you are great. You have lots of talents, lots of strengths. Just believing in yourself and just go for it. Don't be afraid. Thank you.
Wow, I'm really humbled by those life stories or your lived experiences. Really, really eye-opening. I think what's really clear is that, they're varied journeys, aren't they? And sometimes your beginnings don't know your end. And I'm not suggesting it's the end of your careers, but you know what I mean? Where we start off in our careers is not necessarily where we end up. And it's really interesting, Angelina, that side hustles become so significant in our lives as well. So that's really interesting, because I know so many young people who are really interested in business and becoming entrepreneurs, rather than studying. So that's really great. And you've really given us, sort of a blueprint as well on some of those, and insights into how to be, how to sort of keep this, persevering and getting to what you want to. Brilliant. Okay, I've got some questions that I'd like to ask you now, and I'm going to sort of. You've sort of talked about your journeys and where you started and where you've ended up really nicely, but I want to talk about some of the challenges that you've had as women. So, can you tell me a little bit about those sort of gender-based challenges that you might have had in STEM? And we know it's a sort of a male-dominated area. So, can I just start with you at the end, Susan?
I think we have a lot of challenges as a woman. We have a very complicated brain wiring, and I'm sorry for the guys here, but we see the world with a different lens. We can be great at many things, and that's why they keep saying women, they can become a multitasker, which is, I don't believe that as somebody who studied neuroscience. Multitasking is make us perform less. Then as a woman, we have to be really mindful of how we do our approaches, how we channel our energies, instead of just letting that ability and that complicated brain wiring manage us. And because of that, yes, there are challenges in the systems, there are gender pay gaps, but how we can overcome those, that's important. It is up to us to not to give up and not to let the system, what is the norm, dictate us. And what I did, yes, I had those challenges. I came here to UK. It was my second language. I didn't have work experience here. Getting the first job was really hard, not just as a woman, as a person, as a foreigner came to this country. And all of us, we have some challenges as a human. How we overcome that, how we trust our inner wisdom and trust our abilities and not to give up. There is always a way. And what I do today, I help young girls to get that confidence from very young age, from the school, from your age, to understand their abilities, to believe on themselves, and to not to give up. And there are challenges in life, but gender pay gap is one of them, and there is so many challenges. As a human, we have so many challenges. How you perceive, how you proceed with how you deal with them, that's important. And always believe on yourself. That's what I really emphasize on that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Lisa, and I have from you one example of how you sort of overcame a barrier.
Yeah. I think one example and would turn into a bit of advice, I think, to everyone listening here and anybody also seeing these playbacks is blocking out the white noise, because as you were saying, yes, you will face these challenges and people come in with their prejudices and their assumptions, and as soon as you learn to block out the white noise and to believe in yourself, you'll actually really surprise yourselves. So typically, I think an example is a very recent example, which crosses over on another question we were asked to prepare for, is so I recently had a little girl, much like Sana, and that brings incredible challenge in any woman's career. Okay, when I was pregnant, I faced a lot of, let's say, either spoken or unspoken comments, or some unwelcome comments saying, well, you'll change. Yes, you say you want to come back to work, but you'll change. Everybody, all women change. You'll want to stay home. You won't have any interest in your career after this life event. Your capacity might even go down. I was basically told I'd reached my peak and that was it. That was, that was it for my career.
Just to jump in there, I had exactly the same experience.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's kind of like you've got 9 months of growing a human, and it's the most incredible experience ever. And I would never take that away from myself or anybody. It's the best thing I have ever done, hands down. And yet you're at the same time told that everything you've worked for is about to be taken away, that you're about to become a completely different person, which is partly true. Yes, you do change. But I came back from maternity leave, and I think that was, you know, when you asked what is the turning point in your career, that was my turning point. I came back to my career with an even bigger fire in my belly because I managed to block out the white noise. I didn't listen to those negative comments. I did what was right for me, which might not be right for everybody, by the way. And I have tremendous respect for all the women and the way that they choose to continue their lives after having children. But for me, I chose to block out the white noise. I was still as passionate as before. My capacities hadn't changed. I still knew how to do my job. I actually landed a new job in the process, and one that was that with higher credentials. And I surprised myself because during that 9-month journey, I almost believed the white noise around me. I almost believed I'm going to struggle to get back to work. You know, I'm not going to be as dedicated, as passionate, as maybe performant as I was before. And actually, I came back all the better for it. I came back a better leader as well because I had learned new skills, new, you know, empathy, compassion. Actually, you come back with so many new skills. And that was all thanks to just believing in myself and overcoming those challenges that are rooted in stereotypes and prejudices by others and, you know, that sort of thing, which is not always ill-intentioned, by the way.
Yeah, so a moment that stands out to me. So I went to an all-girls high school, and I wanted to study computer science at GCSE, and it was an option for people to choose. But I believe in my year group, only 2 people chose it, so they cancelled it as a GCSE. I didn't get to do it, which really upset me. So I had to do ICT instead. But then when I got to 6th form, I was super excited because I actually got to do computer science. In my class of maybe like 25, 30 students, I was the only girl, which I guess at least I got to do it, so I was excited and I was happy. But it meant that I was going from like a completely like all girls school environment into this room just full of like teenage boys. Thankfully it worked out, like some of them are my best friends to this very day, but it was like a shock. And at that point I knew, okay, this is what I'm in store for the industry, because like that's just the statistics. So in tech roles as a whole in the UK, the amount of females hovers between sort of 17 to 20%, but in actual programming roles, that's much lower. It's probably around 10% or sometimes less. And women leave the industry at a much higher rate than men, probably because they feel like they don't belong. So that's always been something that's kind of stood out to me. In a lot of the rooms I go into, I will be the only woman, or if I'm not the only woman, I will be the only woman of colour. Which definitely has its downside, right? Because sometimes if you're in conversation, I have to talk about, or you know, if I'm talking about something that the guys don't care about, it's very hard to relate. So a lot of the time we're talking about what they're interested in. If it's like Attack on Titan or I don't know, whatever they care about is usually what we're discussing, as opposed to like something that I'm more interested in. But equally, kind of echoing what Suzanne said, it can be an unfair advantage in terms of like, there's a lot of times where I'm in the room, I'm the only person that looks like me. It makes me so much more memorable. Like I can go back and I'm like, oh well, they're not gonna forget me. Like they know me, as well as like when I'm interviewing and things. It's like, oh, the woman that we interviewed today wearing the hijab. Like it's very hard to forget me, and that makes it my unfair advantage. Which again, there's a great book that really helped change my perspective on it. It's co-authored by 2 people, but I can only remember one of those names, which is Hassan Kuba wrote a book called The Unfair Advantage, which is all about taking the things that would typically be a disadvantage for you and like flipping your perspective on it to help drive you forward and like feed that hunger. So for me, one thing that is like really important in a lot of the work I do is making sure that, like I talk, like we're here because we want more women in STEM. I'm here because I want more of you to go into software engineering and technology, because it is like an amazing job. The work-life balance is brilliant, but it's selling the vision. And I think, yeah, that's really important to me.
Great, thanks so much.
I've not really got much to add to all those lovely stories. I think from my perspective in the airline industry, being an airline pilot, we are being assessed constantly, obviously for the safety of the role. So every 6 months we are being tested, and it's being made sure that we know our procedures and policies. And if we don't apply them, obviously you'll get marked down on them. So with that high amount of pressure that you're constantly being tested, you kind of forget who you are in the job. You're just a person doing a job. It's only sometimes when you're sat in the flight deck, because again, very similar numbers, there's about 5% of the flight deck crew are female, let alone the airline captains, as we mentioned earlier, around about 1 to 2% worldwide. So there's not many women in the flight deck at all. But because we are being assessed so often, you find you are really current on the procedures and policies. So you just go and get the job done. But what you find when you fly with a new colleague, which is very regular, we have a lot of employees at our airline, mainly if they're young lads, let's say, straight out of flight school, you'll see they're used to looking at a role model being a male. So when you then jump in the flight deck and get on with your day, suddenly their perspective is completely different. They're looking at a blonde girl sitting next to them going, oh, does she know what she's doing? So it's quite a common sort of stereotypical thought. But as you get on with the day and they realise you're following the procedures as they're described, and quite often there's a lot of decision making involved on the day as well, because life throws curveballs. And based on that decision making, it's all about communication, it's all about, right, okay, so what does the manual say? What do you think we should be doing? And strong teamwork to get the job done safely. So quite regularly I find, based on body language and based on attitude, that there is a prejudgment to see, oh, there's a lady, let's see how the day is going to go. And then quite often towards the end of the day, you know, we have a little chat about how things have gone. We try and improve our knowledge and our experience based on what we've seen that day. We get a shake of hand and, you know, you realise that you've achieved respect from the other person. Whereas if you're a bloke, you probably didn't need to work for it as much. So yes, I see that gender bias every single day. Some days stronger than others. And unfortunately, we do have to keep our foot down, stay professional, and try to not stand out too much. This is something we discussed earlier during our coffee, that it's not about trying to be different just because you're kind of outcast in an environment. I've seen a lot of women in the job acting blokey, very like macho, like even talking with a bit of a heavier voice. If that's you, go ahead and be that person, but don't feel like you need to adapt to the surrounding around you, because it's your true self that will get you to where you want to go in life. And I think for all the women in my industry that have been successful, I've seen that kind of integrity. They've just been themselves and they've trusted their own instincts and they've not copycatted their colleagues just because that's the only example they've seen. So yeah, just stay with your true self and try not to get too distracted with the white noise, as you talked about earlier.
I've got a question for you, Sana. How often have you told someone that you work for an airline with their EasyJet and been asked, oh, are you cabin crew?
Every time.
Nothing wrong with being cabin crew, by the way, but
yeah.
Yep, every single time.
Yeah, every time. And I find as well, the dynamics between the cabin crew and the pilots is very interesting. So I'm in charge of the aircraft, so every decision that's being made is being passed by me. So, and that's based on 10 years of flying experience. That's not just because, you know, I don't know, I had money and I paid myself into the role. It's on true merit. And I find especially young women, interesting enough, young female cabin crew challenging my decision making quite regularly. So, yeah, and Luckily, in my industry, a lot of things are written down, and if they're not written down, we apply common sense. So I've had occasions, just one quick example if I may, we had a verbally abusive passenger, in other words, somebody being rude, telling cabin crew they should F off and do this and do that. So obviously they're trained to de-escalate the situation to avoid physical abuse. Our procedure in WIS is, just to keep it brief, but it's basically we de-escalate and we might even write a final warning. We could even ban the passenger from joining our flights ever again. We wouldn't regularly call the police. It depends on the situation, but it's even written in the manual. We wouldn't regularly call the police unless threats have been made. So I've had cabin crew come to the flight deck on numerous occasions going, we must call the police when we land in Luton. I'm like, yeah, but how am I going to justify myself to the police that this person should be arrested because they told my cabin crew to F off? That's not something you would regularly do. So I don't have any integrity towards the police then, because next time I call them, they won't turn up because they'll be like, oh, she's just doing what she's been told, she's a pushover. So again, trust your instinct and stick with what you know is genuinely correct. And even if you're being challenged, if you've got a true reason for it and you can explain that, and again, it's not just based on my decision, I will discuss that with my colleague, my first officer, as well. And yeah, it's all about teamwork and communication, but I do find on a lot of occasions, cabin crew would request something and I would have to think about it in a discussion also with them, go, okay, so let's try and de-escalate the situation, but then afterwards I'm being told I didn't listen to their request, and you think, oh great. So we're doing this as a team, we discussed it as a team, we made a decision together, but now you don't like it. Is that because I'm a woman, or because I wouldn't challenge a 60-year-old male, I can tell you that. So there's a lot of biases.
What do you think is the reason behind younger female cabin crew member challenging you instead of actually looking up to you and trying to be you?
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously not a regular occurrence to start with.
Yeah.
But yeah, why it would be young women, maybe they feel that there's not as much as a barrier between them and me, so they feel like they can discuss it. Because I always try and twist it into a positive. There will always be a debrief as to why we didn't call police and how we could do things differently next time. So I feel like actually it is a good signal that they're challenging me on it, because it shows that I've got the attitude to be challenged on my decision making, and it makes me a better person as well, because now if I'm faced with this situation again, I will be able to deal with it perhaps in a better way. So I think it's probably the barrier that's not there, that they would normally have towards a 60-year-old male. So I think that diversity is very important for our industry, because ultimately the reason, now that we've discussed the situation, this person will now come home, think about it and go, yeah, actually the captain did learn something about the challenge I gave her. So if there's a 6-year-old male faced with a similar scenario, I'll do the same thing. But I will take it as a lesson, yes or no. That's obviously, we don't know.
I think it's really interesting that those stereotypes are still so rife within all industries where females aren't so visible. And I think that's, we somehow need to break down those stereotypes, and obviously that's partly what we're doing. Sorry, I think you want to come in.
I just want to say something. Gender bias is not just by men.
Yeah.
The gender bias is across society, actually. You could be faced with, just in your example, actually it's a societal problem. It's not just driven by one gender.
Absolutely. And that sort of leads me to another question, which isn't on my script, which is that we've talked about the barriers within STEM and the challenges that you've had within STEM. What about society more generally, or your own communities that you come from, your families, choosing particular careers? Has that been a challenge for any of you? Sort of, long hours, lots of study, sort of, not necessarily, subscribing to traditional gender roles. Has that mattered at all? Yeah, Susan. I mean, you don't all have to respond to that, but yeah, if anybody's had that experience, you can just...
I come from the family, I think they've been in STEM for many years. I have my uncle is a surgeon, my father is an engineer, my brothers are engineered, and I think I come from the long history of the STEM education in the family, and I didn't have any problem. But I remember my first boyfriend when I was during my PhD, my first study boyfriend, and we should live together, and I'm doing my PhD and coming home late. It was a problem. It was a big issue. And he had PhD in IT. He was educated in the, similar areas, not biology, but he knew the challenges of doing the study. And I think it's different from people to people, as you mentioned. It's the society, how we brought up, how we look at life. And that's why my saying is that open your horizon and be open to the new possibilities in life. Don't let other people limitation become your reality of your life. Yes, some people, they have different ideas. They have different upbringing, and they can enforce that on you. But you can challenge them, first of all. Second of all, it's your choice, and it's your life, and it's your choice. And I understand that it's not always easy. It's not always easy when we are in the relationships, when we face the families, family members, they limit us. But again, it goes back to believe in yourself, what is your ability and what you want and what you love, and then find a way. There is always a way. Sometimes it's hard, and we all have challenges. You hear. The journey of life is never straightforward from A to Z. Lots of up and down. But how you deal with all those up and downs. We go through illnesses, loss of our loved ones, which we go through wins and celebrations, and the good things and bad things. But how we deal with it, how we bring out something greater out of each challenges, that matters. And that's define who you become and what you achieve at the end. And that's what you need to work on. The skills, all of us, we have different skills. Hard skills, I say when you have a normal IQ, it's easy for anybody to learn. Anybody could do my PhD. I'm not genius. But what I have different with other people, that perseverance, that drive I had, and never give up, that's made me to finish and achieve the PhD. And that's you should remember. The hardest skill, I don't say it's easy, you have to work on it, but there is a course to do, you do it in university, in a school, you study, but soft skill is what gets you somewhere and gets you the place you want to be and the best version of you.
Thank you, Susan. Somebody else?
I have a quick story,
Yeah.
just kind of surrounding cultural and gender bias, I guess. So last year, sort of early last year, when I got the venture funding, I had to move to the States for around 4 months to meet with the investors, go through an investment ready program and things like that. And at the time, I was trying to explain the concept to my grandmother, and that was a whirlwind because she's a traditional Pakistani woman, and explaining to her that me as a 22-year-old that was unwed wanted to move literally to the other side of the globe by myself to start this company that she'd only really ever heard me talking about over the last like 2 months. Like some random person was going to give me money for it. It was like an insane concept to her. And I tried to explain it, my mum tried to explain it, and she was like very like not pro the idea. Like I was going to go regardless, but you know I wanted her on side. So I like we took the time to like this is the situation, like this is what's going on. Like her and my grandfather. But my grandfather was like a man of few words, so he was like a lot more chill about it. I think he didn't like it as well, but he was more chill. Whereas my nan is a lot more vocal, she's always been. But it took like getting my uncle to like talk to her about it. Like that's why I think male allyship is like really important as well. And it's like sad that look like you didn't bring the young men from like the school here, because I think this conversation would be really important for them to hear as well, not just the young woman. But male allyship is really important because he took the time like out of his like ridiculous schedule to sit my nan down and explain to her like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's not like how it used to be back in the days. Like the world is a different place, and like opened her eyes essentially for her to get on side. So yeah, that's the experience of like cultural and gender bias a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's really important to talk about. Thank you. I'm interested in mentors. Did you and role models? I mean, one of you mentioned that there aren't many female role models, particularly from diverse backgrounds, within STEM. So did you have a role model as you were going through your career, and do you still have role models, or do you have a particular mentor at the moment?
I mean, the best friend I mentioned at the beginning of the introduction, we still talk on a regular basis. So she's definitely one of my big examples in life, the person I turn to when I face challenges, and the person I also turn to when good things happen. So yes, I would definitely consider her as a role model, particularly not in the field that I'm in, but more on bigger life decisions. So from a kind of lifestyle perspective, definitely, I have her as a role model. And in all honesty, my father, he was a businessman. He never really worried about me in my career choices. He always supported me. And he never he challenged me in the right ways, and he also helped me build the person that I am today. So I think parents are a very important role model, and not everyone is in the lucky position to have a parent that is so supportive. Some parents set really strong expectations for their children, but that doesn't mean that you cannot become the person you want to be. So I think it's important that role models are also not perfect, and it's important to remember that, especially for myself in my career, I've had many different mentors, instructors, trainers. My husband's now a trainer as well at the same airline, so we discuss things. I apply to be a trainer. I can, when I'm out of my current pregnancy, hopefully in a year's time, I'll become a flight instructor as well. So I'll end up becoming a role model. But what I've learned over the years is it's not just about one or two people. It's about taking things that you find relevant throughout the years and putting them in your little backpack or pocket to move on. So yeah, everyone can be a role model. Yeah, it can be a grandparent, a best friend, it can be a younger sibling, it can be anyone really, I think.
Anybody else want to?
I totally agree what you said, Sana. It's with different stage of our life, we need different role models because we need different things. When I was in science, I needed scientists around me, brilliant scientists. They've been around me, and I learned from them. And I'm so grateful what I learned and what they've been my role model as well as my mentor. But when you now today, I'm a coach and consultant. I need people in that area to have some skills. Then every part of your journey, you need mentor. Mentor help you to see your blind spots, the gaps, the things you cannot see, you're too close to it. Sometimes you're too close to the project, to the subject, to the things you do. You don't see those areas you need to improve, or the path you need to pivot or change a little bit. That mentor or coach or role model can help you to see that more clearly and be able to just do something about it or do a change. But be open to when the mentor says something, you don't need to take everything on board and take action, but listen. Listening, which was one of my greatest breakthrough in life. My second year of PhD, and that story is the truth and is exactly real, happened to me. My second year of PhD, all arrogance. I thought, I have PhD in Institute for Animal Health, one of the best BBSRC funded institute. I become a coronavirologist, I become a doctor later, and my project had some challenges, some parts of that didn't work, and I keep changing, keep doing and trying, it's not working. Sitting down with that scientist, Rosa Casais, was my mentor, and she was one of the greatest coronavirologists I ever know. And she sat with me to go through things, to why it's not working, why that part of the project is just blocked. And I keep saying, I've done everything, I've changed everything, and I don't listen. And Rosa said to me, just like raised her voice and said, Susan, listen, you are not listening. And it was like a smack to my face. That was my wake-up call. And I'm so glad for that. I'm so grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the space and the time I realized I know nothing. And I started learning. And that was breaking point for me in life. The biggest breakthrough for me. Find the mentor, listen to them. Don't take everything on board if you don't want to or don't have to. But listening and trusting them, that's important.
Thank you. And you have more than one mentor.
I had so many mentors. I mean,
yeah.
as I said, different stage of my life,
Yeah.
I had different mentors. And I had men and women. The reason is, male and female, again, I talk about the neuroscience and the different brain wiring and different way of looking at things. As a woman, we have different range of color between black and white. Men, they mostly look at things black and white. They're more simplify things. And sometimes they can be a good mentor. Why? Because when you complicate things, sometimes you just stuck and you need to simplify. Then sometimes a male mentor can be very, very useful. Don't limit yourself to only have female mentor, only have male mentor. Everybody, any gender, any walk of life can be your mentor in a different stage of your life, and be open to that and trust.
I'll keep it brief. I've never had a mentor in the traditional sense, but I looked at a lot of people that have kind of taken me under their wing in terms of like, there's never been like a formal, oh, they're my mentor, but it's been people that have had like profound impacts on me as a person, me as a software engineer, me as a founder and a business owner. Unfortunately, I'm now realizing the majority of them, fortunately I guess, but the majority of them are men. I don't think I've had, I think it also goes to say that there's not a lot of women in that position in my field, so it's harder to find them. But yeah, not too much to add there.
So you're the role model for others, I guess.
I do, yeah.
Potentially a mentor going forward. Yeah, that sounds lovely. Elisa?
I think I would just have to echo what everyone has said. Is you'll find your mentors along the way, and you'll have different ones for different purposes and different stages of life. There'll be the permanent figures in your life, no doubt. For me, it will definitely be someone like my dad. Will forever be that figure or permanent figure. And then along the years, I have had those mentors, and sometimes you will distance yourself from some just because you're no longer at that stage in life, or because you've moved on to something else. But again, just to echo, similarly for me, a lot of mine have been men, and I have learned a great deal from them, and I'm very grateful for it. So it's not, don't limit yourself. You know, I think I can't remember who said this, but I think if we had, you know, as a point to take away, is if we had men or boys in the audience, that would be very beneficial for them as well, to see how they can be allies and how they can support their peers.
Yeah, that's really interesting. My younger brother always says to me, when I say to him, oh, so I've got 4 brothers, I'm the only sister, daughter in the family, and they've been my allies. But when I say to him, oh, you know, they've been really supportive, he always turns around to me and says, well, everybody needs somebody. So I think that's really what I've got out of this conversation, that, you know, it can be family, it can be, you know, people who share similar interests, careers, you know, people in the same career, or even friends, you know, because role models and mentors, you know, have different spaces in our lives. That's really interesting. And I just want to go back to something that you touched on, which is that leadership. So clearly, you know, you're leaders in your fields now. So what sort of space is there? Is there a clear pathway in your careers for growth towards leadership and progression, I guess? I mean, you know, some of our younger audience might want to know, well, if I start here, how is it a clear pathway to end up where I am, where you are now, I guess? Or is it, you know, can you give me an example perhaps of, you know, or is it the twists and turns, or those of you who might have had a more of a direct pathway?
I have a really direct one.
Yeah.
Mine's relatively simple. So when you join an airline, you join as a co-pilot and you fly so many hours, and then you become, so it's a first officer, same thing as co-pilot. When you fly so many hours, you get promoted to senior first officer. Some airlines perform an exam or a check so that you can be viewed as a senior. Other airlines just base it on hours. Then when you get to a certain amount of flying hours, you get assessed to become the captain. And in our airline, I believe it's 3,000 hours, but I mean, that doesn't mean anything to you. So on average, you fly probably 600 to 700 hours a year. If you work really hard, you can fly 900, but a lot of people wouldn't want to do that. So probably with COVID in between, around about 6 years it took me to get to command. So yeah, it's a relatively straightforward path to get there. Obviously the assessments are really thorough, and some people don't make it because it's a very safety critical role. But yeah, you have a clear goal in mind to get to that point. What a lot of people struggle with nowadays with quick growing airlines is they get to that position in their career at a very young age. So then they think, well, what's next? I'm not even considered middle age, and now I've already achieved what I wanted to achieve 10 years ago. So then it becomes vague, basically. So yeah, I did a degree to distract myself, and now I'm having children, we're growing a family, so who knows where we'll be in 20, 30 years time towards my end of my career. But you could also go into management. You could, you know, with the use of that degree, you could become a pilot manager. You could go into the safety management system. I currently work an office role on the side, focusing on fatigue and aircrew. So people performing so many flights consecutively causing tiredness, which is a safety issue because you don't want a tired pilot behind the wheel. So we're doing science on that. And yeah, you could go into pilot recruitment, pilot training. So there's a lot of different directions you could go into if you wanted to. But in general, the journey is relatively straightforward. But I can expect with the other three ladies, it's maybe not as straightforward.
So I have both a conventional and unconventional route. In my traditional software engineering role, I got to where I wanted to get way quicker, which I think is also why I decided to do my master's and why I started a business. Was by 22, I was a senior software engineer and team lead, and I thought I'd get here when I was like 30. So I kind of speed ran that and did the conventional route of going through promotions, and that was great. But then it was like, okay, what's next? I either like transition into management, in which case I don't get to touch the code, which that's the bit of the job I really like. And then there was I've always kind of wanted to be an entrepreneur, so I went down that route. But with entrepreneurship, especially as a female, the reality of the situation is if you are looking to get venture funded or invested, only 1% of venture funding or investment goes to female entrepreneurs. That number is significantly lower if you're a woman of color, and that number is significantly lower if you're a black woman of color. So the reality of the situation is very hard to grow and scale a company as a woman, but equally there are investors that are more focused on helping fund women, and there are equity investors, and there are people that are trying to lead that force, and hopefully slowly over time that number will change. I think it's slightly better in the States and slightly worse in Europe as a whole, but it's something that is continuing to change, so that's one kind of big push that hopefully over the next 10 years we'll see more women in entrepreneurship, and we'll see more of those women be successful because they're getting the funding they deserve.
So I would consider my journey to be, it might look straightforward on paper, because actually when you look at the 9 years that I've been at EasyJet, I probably stayed in one role for a couple of years, and every time I moved on, it was to a more senior position. So actually it was step by step, very linear, like I said, very straightforward on paper. But actually it takes a hell of a lot of work. And in the background, some of it is visible, some of it is less visible. And where I have felt that I have had to basically prove myself twice more than maybe my male counterparts. So I would say a visibly straightforward path that actually is riddled with hoops and binds and twists and that you've got to navigate for yourself. Now there is a flip side to this though, and we mentioned this earlier. I think you mentioned a book. What was the
Unfair Advantage.
Unfair Advantage, yeah. So there is a flip side to all of this, where yes, you might face additional challenges to your male counterparts, but actually you're more visible for it. You do end up rising above people when you put that extra work, when you go the extra mile. You will rise above that, and you will find yourself in this awkward, weird kind of position of unfair advantage. Of sometimes they call it another name as well. Just more. It's got more of a negative connotation, so I might not even mention it. Yeah, but so there are flip sides to the challenges you will face along the way. But I will say that there are a lot of hoops to jump through that you might think your male counterparts are not jumping through as many.
Susan, would you like to say?
Thank you. I think my journey, I just said the story of my journey very briefly, wasn't linear. I changed a lot, but I just had one goal at the end. But what I did, I started to lead myself. And if you want to be a leader, the first things start from here, leading. And leading yourself, your emotion, managing you first, you can get there. And there are challenges on the way. That's life, that's called life. And you cannot avoid those challenges. Just accept them, and accept what is in your control and what is not in your control. The things that are out of your control, leave them. Don't waste your energy on them. And lead what is in your control. that person within you, that person will need to lead first, then you can lead. I've been a leader, I had my own teams, I am a leader in my industry now, but that's a title. When you want to lead, you need to know what is the leader does, and that's what you need to know. You need to be there for people. You need to feel their feelings. You need to connect with people around you and the subjects around you, to attend, to be in the present moment. And those, they get you to the leadership, and you will lead, all of you. Because you all have the ability, you all have the potential. Just find that, find your strength, and just go for it. Don't be afraid.
That leads me nicely to the next question, Susan, which you've sort of touched upon, which is that if I was to ask you sort of what are two key skills that you need, that you think are the most important for a career in STEM, what would they be? You know, just two.
The key skill, I mean, if you want to go to a STEM, first of all, find out if you love a STEM. If you love science, if you love technology, then find out if you're good at it, if you have enough skills. Because, as I said, hard skill is easy to learn. Not easy, I mean, I put it easy, but it's not easy, but it's doable. But soft skill, what you need, that's believe on you. I think skills, they get you there. But find out if a STEM is for you. If it's not, it doesn't matter, so be it. There are many good jobs and skills outside. You can be a good painter, you can be a good artist, you can be a good actor, actress, but find out if you love. I loved science. We love what we do. We love what we do. That passion and drive will get you there, no matter what challenges on your way. But if you don't have that fuel and that passion and drive, then maybe you need to ask yourself what I'm good at, what I love to do. And there are lots of books available nowadays for do what you love, and you never work a day in your life. Why? Because when you do what you love, it's not like work.
That's a really important point then, about passion and drive.
Two skills for me: perseverance and humility. So you will need to have that backbone, because there will be times where you might want to just, kick the bucket and say, well, I'm done. God knows that's happened to me once or twice, and if I didn't have that perseverance, I wouldn't be where I am today. And humility, because it doesn't matter what age you are, who you are, what gender you are, and what walks of life you are, whether you're a junior analyst or a manager or a director. You need to be able to come into work or your academic life with enough humility to be able to learn from others.
Yeah, very important.
So my two, I'm trying not to repeat, but one is curiosity. Like, I think the wanting to learn just for the love of learning stuff. It doesn't have to be boring stuff, like differential equations or something. But going down a rabbit hole of something that you're passionate and interested in, and being able to then take your learnings and apply that as curiosity is a big one. And then I think the other one is being willing to take a punch and get back up, perseverance and being able to take rejection. Because I think a lot of people are very easily disheartened with rejection or failure. But I think in all of our stories there's been some level of failure there, and it's really important to just get really used to failing, because in the startup world generally there's the idea of failing fast. Like if you're failing fast, you're moving forward because you're trying everything that doesn't work, and then you're pushing forward with the things that do work. So fail fast and fail often is one thing I'd say.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, that kind of ties in with the two that I had in mind. So with failure also comes learning, right? So being able to take criticism is not a failure, it's actually a strength. So do something with, when people give you criticism, do something with it. They're telling you for a reason. And whether you like it or not, it's being said, and it's hopefully going to help you grow. The other thing in my field, which is quite important, is being able to work as a team. So teamwork is a very important one in my field. And this is something that starts at a very young age. I played field hockey from the age of like 4 all the way through until adult life. So team sport has been very, very important to me. And it doesn't just, help exercise and keep you fit and all that, but it's a very important skill to be able to work together at a kind of critical, time-critical moment as well. So teamwork, I think, is definitely an important one as well.
That's really, really interesting. I mean, we've heard some really good advice there. So perseverance and humility, taking criticism, teamwork, passion, drive, curiosity, failure, fail fast, and what was it?
Fail often.
Fail often. I need to write this down and I'm going to use it. Plagiarise, fail often. Okay. And I think for me, as I'm listening to this amazing panel of speakers, is resilience. Okay, so everything that you've talked about demonstrates real resilience, doesn't it? Sort of never giving up. If you fall, you carry on. I mean, particularly Angelina, your sort of start as where you've started and where you're going to do has been really different. Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to have one last question before I open up to the audience, and it's just a quick question, which is what excites you about the future of your field, future in your field? Just sort of quickly, what's the most exciting thing about the future of your field?
In aviation, it's about green energy. We're obviously in the media all the time about aeroplanes polluting too much, which I did a sustainability module in my degree, and actually aviation doesn't make up a large amount of the carbon emissions. However, of course, we are in the spotlights. So yes, green energy, green flying is going to be a very exciting development. Luton Airport is now expanding massively soon as well. An announcement was made recently regarding that one. So how is the expansion going to happen? Is there going to be hydro fuel, and are we going to stop using kerosene as the way we fly? How is that going to affect flight safety? Aviation is a very slow developing industry because of the safety element that's involved. So I think it will take a very long time, but I think eventually, because of the media exposure, definitely green energy is going to be one of our exciting challenges ahead.
So I think I have a slight unfair advantage here because I run an AI company, and AI is a buzzword that everybody's been hearing recently. But I don't think, AI itself is not the most exciting. I think what AI enables us to do, especially for young people, is probably the most exciting. The barrier to entry for literally anything is significantly lower than, maybe not like becoming a doctor or law or whatever, but it's significantly lower than it used to be. So if you want to learn how to edit videos, it's significantly easier with the new tooling. If you want to learn any skill, it's a lot easier with a lot of the new tooling that's out there. If you are curious about literally anything, you can go to ChatGPT, you can go to Anthropic, take everything it says with a slight pinch of salt, but it's a lot easier to learn and get ideas and reinforcements. Again, if you want to start a business, it's way easier to come up with branding, logos, everything. So I think the ability for AI to lower the barrier for entry, especially for young people, I spend a lot of my time on Twitter because it's where founders live, unfortunately. And it's not a great platform, but that's just how it is. And the amount of 16 and 17-year-olds that are doing amazing things that I wouldn't have even been able to fathom at that time when I was their age is super fascinating. So I think the barrier to entry is the big one for me.
I also think AI has really opened up opportunities for people with neurodiversity, for example? You know, other challenges that, you know, might have limited study or limited, you know, the ability to make certain choices. So really great.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I run an interview preparation company, and with neurodiversity, it's a massive one of they want to feel very prepared in order to feel secure before they go and do things, and even things like eye contact. We're now at a place where we're able to tell them, hey, you're actually holding way too much eye contact and it's making people uncomfortable versus too little, and it's like finding that middle ground that maybe they would have had to do hundreds of times with different people, now they can practice it amongst themselves.
Yeah, great.
So my work right now revolves around safety management systems, and we do a lot of data processing and trying to understand the failures, you know, tracing back root causes and so forth. And actually, you'd be amazed at how manual these tasks are, how much maybe even archaic we look when we actually do our work on a day-to-day basis. And I'm going to steal the show here with AI. I would call it as both an excitement, but also incredibly nervous around how that's going to penetrate the airline industry that is so regulated, and obviously because it's safety driven. How is that going to come in to help us shape our safety management systems in the future, help us be better at what we do with safety and understanding trends, and then improving our track record? But also, what are its limitations? Because right now AI is showing us our limitations as humans. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of reluctance to trust it because of the implication that it could have if we get it wrong. So a mix of excitement and nervousness, I think.
Interesting.
Thank you. For me, I am a leadership coach and consultant, and I do work with lots of STEM leaders and STEM organization. For me, it's sustainable leadership. We do a lot of work around systemic coaching and systemic team coaching, which is very new, fairly new, and it's all about how we can look at the broader range of not just me as a leader and the team members, but broader audience of next generation, the family, the people, clients, everybody affected by our work as a scientist, engineer, as in aviation. Anything we do can affect so many levels in the society and in the world. And how we can be more mindful, because science can be great. Engineering can create great things, and we had a lot of nice technology. Without science and technology, we couldn't have vaccine for COVID. We do have them because of that privilege we have, science and technology. But this can be dangerous too. AI can be risky. And be mindful, be aware of. As a scientist, as an engineer, you can do great things, you can create a monster. Then be aware of that. Is that in line with your value? Is that in line with the needs of the world and needs of the society? And that's my future, is working with those leaders to be mindful, with those teams to be mindful of what they're doing and what they're putting to the nature. We did that. I mean, we can see the global warming is happening. We can see the change in the weather. We feel it. Then what we put, we get it back. The energy we put, we get it back somehow. And we need to be mindful and be aware of that.
That's great. Thank you so much to our panelists. I want to open up to our audience now. Hopefully you'll all have lots of burning questions, things you're wondering about. It can be related to any specific field or more generally. There's a question there. Fantastic. Just raise your hand and we'll bring the mic to you.
Yeah, hi. First off, thank you very much. This has been really, really inspiring. I'm another woman that works in STEM. I was wondering, my company is STEMX Fashion, so I work within the fashion industry, and actually I set up a careers advisory service for young people, and I have been at Putridge High School. I even got the pen today, which is quite funny. In going in and inspiring these young people in understanding the career options and the different options and routes into the industry, but studying something and subjects that aren't necessarily as sexy or as appealing as STEM, and linking it to a really desirable and aspirational industry such as fashion. During my workshops, I offer really hands-on, tangible advice as to the first steps when they're at these ages. I wondered if you all had really clear first step of something they should do, whether that's a LinkedIn account that they should follow or something they should read. I just wondered if you could share that with us, just because also I would love to know.
I have one, which is one for entrepreneurship and then one for software engineering, which is for entrepreneurship. There's this amazing place called Y Combinator, and they have videos on YouTube about every kind of basic of starting a company, all the way to like once it's a $1 billion company, and you're learning from like the very best in the world. And then for software engineering, I would recommend like something like Code Academy, where you can literally just start with your first line of Python or whatever language, and it will walk you through like the very basics. I think it's how I learned when I was like 10 or something, so it's very easy to learn with.
I don't know if this is going to answer your question completely, but what I will say for anyone that's interested in a career in aviation, and when I introduced myself, I talked about this chain that's comprised of a lot of different nodes. When I was trying to orient myself, I was thinking pilot, that's what I wanted to do. And I ended up in something very different. And I actually ended up doing a lot of different jobs, summer jobs along the side. What I will say is if I could go back to my younger self or my peers or to the people in the audience now, is you're never too young to start exploring side hustles or summer jobs, work experience. It's never too soon to start, actually, because that will build up your experience and also your network. You know, you'll start your network from that point onwards. People you'll meet at 15, 16, they might still be relevant to you 5, 10, 15 years from now.
I am not in science anymore, but I do a lot of work with STEM, science, engineering, maths and technology. For the schools, they have 50 years of work experience. That's a government requirement from 2026. It's going to be rolled out, which is the schools, they know that and they're working on that to just create that. And my advice is they tune that 50 hours work experience to this. They go to if they like science, they try to do some work experience in the companies around. They do science, and like in Cambridge, I know some of the, like AstraZeneca is there. The children around Cambridge area, they go to AstraZeneca and they have the site. And there are other companies available. There are lots of engineer companies, Milton Keynes in Luton, and children, they can go and just see how they do manufacturing. How is the environment? Is that something is in line with their value and what they want and what they love? I think work experience is really important. I did even in my younger age, when I moved from science, from development to commercial side, I've done the shadowing of the sales people to see is that sales is for me. Is that I'm good at it or not? Is that something I love to do? Because every job and every skills has some needs and some of the things you have to do day to day. Do you want to do that for rest of your life or many years of your life? And that those kind of things are very important. I think if we wisely, I work with lots of leaders, top leaders, head of the departments, head of the 60 people under their command, they're not happy with their job. Why? Because they've chosen the wrong path. And they have to stick to it. Why? Because they have bills to pay, they have family, they have responsibilities. And it's much harder when you're older to change, and that's why lots of my work goes to the children, to the younger generation, because you are in that part of your life. If you find your path and right path, you win, you will be happy.
Great, thank you. Excellent. There's 1, 2, and then 3. It was the lady from first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
that
I
one
didn't
first.
see because I was sat there. I'll do you next. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't know if time permits. I'd like 2 questions.
Yeah. Okay. We've got 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So my first question would be: as a woman, we often have to, remind ourselves in spaces like male-dominated spaces that we do belong here, that we have, put the work to be here, and we're just as valuable as our male counterparts. And that can often be translated as us being proud, because as someone who this is my classmate, we're like one of 3 girls in our old classroom. And then I often have to correct, the boys in the class with their tone. I feel like they often forget we're in the class and we're also girls. So their tone in class, and then they often think I'm rude or I'm proud. So, and I know that can be, the language that they hear, and then, I think someone said earlier, we have to make sure we're not arrogant. But it's like, can we really control that? Because sometimes I'm speaking to one of my male classmates, and I'm like, this is simple things that we should both know. You don't know it, I know it, but then if the teacher wants to pick someone for anything, he's gonna pick you first. We only have 2 male teachers and 1 female teacher. So the balance is quite off. So my question would be, how do we not come off as arrogant and rude to, our fellow male counterparts? And my second question would be, as someone who has pretty much interest and job hopped all my life, from when I was a kid, I wanted to become a dancer, then I wanted to become a musician, and then I wanted to go into creative arts. I've never really had one, job interest that I really liked until 2 years ago I came into tech, and then now I'm here. I just always had I used to call myself jack of all trades, master of none. So now I'm here, and then I'm like, if I really want it so bad, I will get there. So I just want advice as to, feeling like I don't belong here. Like coming even into this room this morning, I had to take a few deep breaths because I'm looking around and I can see everyone beaming with passion, and it's like you said you've been coding since you were 10. I didn't know what coding was when I was 15, So it's just 2 years ago, now I'm finding myself in tech, and I have to, keep reading to catch up. And then I'm one of the people who has to be online, break this down for a dummy, that kind of thing, so I can understand. So I would like advice on that thing.
That's great. That's sort of 1 question, 2 parts, isn't it? It's about belonging.
I'd love to touch on that. I answer you with 1 question. If you've been in a class of 20 girls and 3 boys, how did you respond?
I'll feel so much I'll belong better. I'll feel more in place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your belonging and your sense of belonging coming from the people around you. But first find you, because the person in with you from the first you came to this planet, and the time you departed this planet with you. Always with you, find the belonging with you first. Find you and believe in yourself. You feel belong everywhere you go. That sense of belonging, we just finding our power in other people or in the crowd. but you are on your own, you have the power. The second things you mentioned about is not about competition. I find my time when I was 5 years old. We are in a different part of our journey when we come to this world. And it is not about I find it earlier, you find it later, maybe you become more successful. And when you just get there earlier than me. And remember the story of the turtle and rabbit. Rabbit never finished the line, turtle did. And it was a slaughter. And remember that, because it's not about when you find it. For you, it was when you've been teenager. For me, when I was 5 years old. For somebody else, some other times. We have the different time, different journey. Never compare yourself with anybody or anybody's journey. Your journey is unique to you and is so special. And you are special. And remember that. That because of that, you don't need to belong to any group or team. You belong to everywhere. You belong to the human nature, human, and that creature. We are all human. We have that in common. And the only things I see, and you should see, because the only things is matters. We are part of that tribe, and we all belong then.
Should we get one more response to that question very briefly, and then we'll move on to the next question?
So if I had one advice for you is don't lower your voice. That doesn't mean to say, obviously, treat everyone with respect, and that everybody deserves, regardless of their gender, or race, or age. But don't feel like you have to tone down yourself. Unfortunately, you will face this, not in your academic life, but in future, in your professional life. You are going to feel like, as a woman, people are going to say, oh, you're louder, you're more outspoken, because, I don't know, like somehow that's the energy we give out when we're passionate, and when we believe in something very strongly, and when we want our voices heard. For some reason, we're seen as louder than maybe our male counterpart who's doing exactly the same thing. It's not a you problem. It's a problem of everything that surrounds us, right? And it will start with us feeling, having the confidence and feeling power to stay ourselves, to stick to who we are, but also the education of boys and men around us to say, actually, you put two people side by side, one is a woman, one is a man, both are as loud as each other, but for some reason you're going to think the woman is louder. It will come with time. It's not something that's going to get fixed quickly.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hi, I'm a real actor, a student born from doing computing. So during the introduction, I realized that most of our panelists, they were passionate about what they want to do since really young age. Like Miss Angelina said, she did her programming at age 10. Maybe that time I didn't even know what computing is, to be honest. And Miss Gibson said that she was playing the flight simulator, I think? Yeah. So since young, I was really into like science, mostly chemistry or biology, and I was sticking to that. But then after doing my GCSEs, I got to learn about like computing tech, and I was like, why don't I do research about it? But then I was like, yeah, that's really interesting. And then so it's basically like doing my I was 16 years old. So my question is, what are the advices you'd give to someone who just got to know about computing during their teenage years? Or like me, because I do love science, and I don't want to leave science and technology as well. I want to work with both together. So what are the advices you give to someone who is kind of lost, like what they want to do in this IT field? Because I believe that IT has so many fields to work on. So what are the advices you give to them?
So on that note, I know a lot of us mentioned that we knew what we wanted to do early, and then some of those plans changed, right? But some of the best people that have been my personal mentors as well, in terms of like the people that I like alluded to earlier, where I work, were amazing engineers, like absolutely incredible. They didn't start like programming until they were like in the mid-30s, or like they did a physics degree. They were very sure they were going to be a physicist, and then at one point in life something changed and they ended up in the field, and they were phenomenal about it. So I don't think that should deter you. Like at whatever age you get into an industry, as long as you're passionate about it, you're going to be good. Because there's a lot of people in the industry that have lost their passion, or maybe just came in for the sake of money or whatever. If you're passionate, you'll be good, and you'll probably be leagues ahead of a lot of people. So I wouldn't worry about what age you fall into it. And then in terms of like general advice I'd give in order to stay ahead is, I think it goes back to what we all said in terms of like stay curious and persevere. And with that in mind, like you will succeed. Like it'll be very hard not to succeed. You've just got to keep on going, and as long as you're genuinely interested, or you think it's a field that, like you've got to find the thing that makes you excited. So in tech, there's like, or in IT, there's like a bunch of different things you can do. Test them all out. Find out which one you actually like. I think that goes to your career, right? Like, you might not enjoy everything. Like I think I did 3 kind of different kind of software engineering roles before I was like, oh, this is like, I like solving this particular challenge. And I think that applies to like any field you're in.
Yeah, thank you.
My name is Fatima Kazmi and I'm from Barnsley as well, and I'd like to ask Ms. Angelina, like, you spoke about in the beginning that you did an apprenticeship to get into computer science and software engineering development. It's really difficult to get into it now. I've applied for loads and I just seem to lack, I think, in my CV. And since you've also said that you're a co-owner of a business, I wanted to ask you for advice on what you really look at in a CV as an employer for computer science. Like, is it the programming skills, is it the projects you've done, or is it something else?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And yeah, it definitely has gotten more competitive and more difficult over the last couple of years as well. In terms of the CV, there's not like a hard and fast rule, but for software engineering specifically, I'd say projects. So like your GitHub, you want it set up, you want some projects set up in there that show that you have like experimented and you've tried things. That's kind of the big thing, especially early on in your career where you have no work experience. I think the projects and the things that you do to show that you're passionate are probably the biggest differentiator. In terms of CV, like add me on LinkedIn and I'll give you a bunch of tips. But I say, especially early on, you want it to be one page, you want it to be clean, you want it to show anything that you've done related to the field and all of the skills that you've learned. And just in general for CVs, like you want it to be tangible. So it's not, I built this, it's I built this and it did this and the impact was this. So like if you have 1 user or if you have 10 users, you want to highlight the end impact as opposed to I just did this thing. You want to show this is the value that I bring, and that's probably the biggest differentiator. So if you build a project, get people using it. Just so you can show, hey, I had 100 people using my project, and that shows to me, okay, you went out and you tried something and you went really hard at it, because everybody knows it's hard to get people to work on your project or look at your project, so just exploring that. For someone of like your age, I'd say networking is really important as well. Find people that are able to help you, look for mentors. That's what I said, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'll have a look at your CV and we can like talk about what it would look like. And then for apprenticeships specifically, there are a bunch of really good sites to look at. So like QA have apprenticeships, Multiverse, where I used to work actually, have a bunch of like engineering apprenticeships. There's a bunch of platforms and sites, and like I said, rejection is just part of the job. You've just got to do a bunch. Like you've got to apply to everything you can find, essentially.
That's great. I think is there one more question?
One of the students in travel, tourism and aviation, she has a question because we've got the computing and the travel.
Okay.
And I think they could thank you.
I have just a quick question. Did any of you have like a backup career option if your careers hadn't worked out, or are you dead set on what you wanted to do?
What was the backup plan?
I am the backup plan.
It was invented to be where I am.
The backup plan. Well, for me, the backup plan was probably to go back into medicine to apply again. but there was a lot of at stake because the flight training is so expensive. Luckily nowadays, a lot of airlines offer their own flight training, and you basically sign a contract with them, and they fund your flight training. So you don't, there's not as much at stake, let's say. However, yeah, a backup plan. It's a difficult one, but I think it's a very good point actually. It's important to have a backup plan because success isn't always measured at what goal you achieve, what your plan A, success isn't always achieving your plan A. It can be having a complete detour and arriving at destination B, which happens quite often in aviation actually. If the weather is not good at destination, we have to divert the airplane to another airfield, but guess what? I'm happy because we landed safely. So success isn't always about achieving plan A, and I think it's very important to set yourself a plan B, definitely, whatever it is. Yeah.
I think there's two more questions. I think there's three more questions quickly, and then we'll wrap up.
Hi, I probably have a little bit of a different perspective to most people here because I've worked in tech for a number of years, and I retrained as a software engineer in my 30s, which you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. So my question is probably from a little bit of a different angle. So as women in tech, we're already, quite few and far between, it's male-dominated. The numbers of women leaving that industry later in life is terrifyingly high. Like I think for engineering, it's like something like nearly 60%. For tech, it's like something like nearly 60,000 women like last year left the industry, and it's usually past the age of like 35, which is people having families, they've got other responsibilities. So I guess my question is, how can we, established in the industry as older women, how can we stay there and keep the pipeline, keep everyone in the industry? Like, what's the one thing that you would do, and maybe you're trying to do it already to kind of keep us all in STEM that we love?
Is there one person who wants to answer?
We do already some work. We know there is a shortage in STEM, and it's not just for women. We have a big shortage in STEM, and that shortage only we can address by working on the new generation in a school, very young one. And we do that. We do MK Innovators and Festival. We do festivals. We do work career advice in the schools to help the schools to understand. It's from very early stage. We have to encourage them. There is a job available for them. There is opportunity available for them. Sorry, because of the air conditioning, I get allergy with that. And because of that, we have to start very early stage. But it's not just girls we have shortage. We have for boys and girls shortage. For girls we have more shortage. Why? Because they don't join IT. They don't join engineering. And we have to create a clear map, understanding of there is not, thank you, and there is not a scary space for girls. Girls are scared. For example, for me, I wasn't one of the typical scientists. I was in fashion, I loved fashion, I used to be outspoken, I am very extrovert, and I wasn't a typical scientist. That's okay. And I was one of the successful scientists. And we need to talk to girls about this. You are not going to lose you're not going to not have family. You're not going to change the way you are. You just choose that because you're good at it and you love. And that's come from the very, very young age. We have to start from very young age, and I think we don't do enough. We don't do enough in the society, and we have to, because we do a lot of AI. We had MK Tech Week. We had Cambridge Tech Week. We have Birmingham Tech Week. We all work on the industries that are already there. We are entrepreneurs. We already have a lot of people in the tech. But how we want to encourage the younger generation to join the STEM, because the long term, to train them, to make them skillful for the 10 years, 15 years, 50 years time, we need them. How we want to do that, we don't spend enough, and we need to invest enough.
I think I'd like to just respond to that, and I think that what you're talking about is an issue in lots of other careers as well, health and social care, etc., etc. I think
it's just especially high.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right, and I think it's about building resilience, you know, in the workforce, and ensuring that the environment that those older professionals are working in is, you know, it creates a space that supports them to continue within their careers.
Allow me to talk about it from a tech perspective, because of your experience as well. I've seen places do it really well, where they nurture the workforce and they have post-maternity programs, and they have like career changer programs. And there are some companies that do it very well and they foster the culture, but it has to come from above. And there are other companies that do it very poorly, and I think that's why we have this severe flock of women, especially older women, leaving technology, and we have that massive deficit of what should be senior leadership, where there are women in senior leadership, but because we have so many people leaving, they don't have the opportunity to get into those senior leadership positions as well. But it's a very difficult problem, and it's something that is definitely being faced across Europe and the States. But I've seen it done well and I've seen it done poorly, and it just has to come from the leadership.
It's about feeding it back as well. I recently had a meeting in my airline about my post-maternity journey, and I'm going to have a meeting about it again soon. So it's about reaching out and providing feedback, because when do employees really provide feedback towards their employer? It's either when there's a survey being done, or when they go through a company exit interview. Well, it's already too late then. So I try to think of it as I try to think of it as an opportunity. I've experienced a couple of negative experiences throughout my return from maternity, and I've shared it with my management. And in a follow-up meeting, hopefully, when it's being brought up again, change will follow. So in general, providing feedback.
Can I add something? I think it's a fact of creating allies. It's what you mentioned earlier. In senior leadership, create allies towards women. So it's a change that needs to happen from whomever is in leadership now, in senior leadership, be more inclusive, which is essentially what Dr. Susan is doing her company, and then changing the newer generation and giving them the opportunity to actually open up and show them the doors that they are there. So it's a change that needs to start from the younger age to the older age, so they can meet up in the middle really, in a couple of years.
And I think I was just going to say it's also about changing policy. It has to be sort of embedded within institutions. So maternity policy and menopause policy, now, which is sort of in the news quite a lot. So really interesting point.
Could even go next level and consider government guidelines and government rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
For example, the maternity pay in the UK is atrocious. In the Netherlands, I believe you get 4 months with your child until full pay until you go back to work. In other places in Europe, you get paid for 3 years. In the UK, you get 6 weeks. So imagine, with a 6-week-old, you go back to work. That's just impossible. So you could go even next level. You talk about senior leadership, but what about the government? it starts there really.
They have started a couple of things for the kids, obviously trying to support
Childcare,
childcare, but that's not a solution really, because who wants to leave their kids, a 1-year-old, in childcare to get more sick, so then you have to take days off from work.
And it doesn't fit all as well, because you know I do shift work, so I have to have a live-in nanny because my husband and I both work shift work. So I don't believe that gets funded at all. So
It's like when I said that people view me as reaching my peak just before I went on maternity leave. It's almost like motherhood and career past that point are mutually exclusive. They're not. You know, that you can merge the two.
I always tell people, I had a baby, not a lobotomy.
Exactly. But that's also what I tell people. It's like, yeah, I had a baby, I'm growing my family, I'm 32 years old, but my career is still on the upward path.
I think it's even, you know, for older women, you know, sort of maintaining those careers and wanting to progress their careers, you know, when they're going through things like menopause.
We've actually had programs targeting menopause to get people to understand the impacts of menopause, so that the people around us, men or women, are less oblivious to what we're going through, whether that's going through motherhood or going through menopause. But I have my own personal experience that, like, literally with my own father, who has had some questionable comments made about his own employees because they've gone off on maternity leave, and he's the boss of his company, and he's saying, oh, you know, he's basically twisting it, saying, oh, that's such a burden. But to which I have to remind him, hey, we're giving you the next generation of taxpayers here. Yeah. So it's also important, but that doesn't mean to say that we should sacrifice what we've built before.
Yeah. That's a really interesting question. Is there? I think there's one last. We'll take one last question, and then we'll. You know, our panelists will be around, I think, for a few minutes anyway, if there's any more questions or want to exchange contact details.
My name is Sad. I am also studying computer science. I have questions specifically for Angelina, I think. You mentioned doing apprenticeships. I wanted to ask, how difficult was it for you to get in? How many rejections did you face before eventually getting there? And specifically, did your hijab, your religion, did it impact the way people viewed you while interviewing, and all the major steps to take to get into an apprenticeship?
That's a really good question. So my original plan was to go to university. I just didn't meet my university offer. So I was going to take a gap year, and I was thinking about reapplying. So I didn't actually intend to go into an apprenticeship. But while I was on that gap year, I was doing a program at IBM, and I then kind of had the idea of let me try for an apprenticeship. So I went onto the QA website, and I think I applied to 2, and I only applied to 2 because they were like the highest paying ones. So I had no real stakes in the game, which I think helped me in the process because I wasn't as nervous. But I had no real stakes in the game because I was like, oh, if this works out, I'll do this. If not, I'll go to university. And I got a call back from BNY and went through like the interview process. I was really fortunate where the person that was running the program was a woman in senior leadership, and they'd interviewed like thousands of applicants, and they had like 3 places on the program, and they had already the majority of people that she was interviewing were men. And she wanted a young woman in tech as well, but obviously there was still that like high caliber like bar to meet. But I passed all of my interviews, and she was like, "I'm so glad you were here because like we didn't want the next generation to just be like three teenage guys." So that was nice in terms of having her as kind of like the change that I wanted to see, and I think that made a difference. But I didn't actually apply for a lot. I didn't necessarily. I wasn't as invested. I also wasn't a degree apprenticeship, so it wasn't as competitive. It was just kind of a computer science apprenticeship. But I know things have become a lot more competitive now, and I also had a lot of programming experience because, like I said, I've been doing it for a while by then. But I think the big thing is your willingness to learn. Like as long as you're able to show that, I was like, I know this, but I can learn this, and like you're passionate and you're excited and you're willing to learn. I think that's the big thing they're looking for, especially at that age where you're like an apprentice and you're first joining the career. Is okay, I'm somewhat interested, but I have the ability. Like they're looking for potential. Like you've got to show your potential.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm going to bring our session to a close now. And I just really want to thank the panel for your honesty, your generosity of time, first of all, I guess, and then your honesty and your insight, in sharing your lived experiences and your journey. It's been really, really interesting. And I think what you've really shown us is that there's no single way to succeed, is there? That path to success, however we define that success, is really long and winding and complex, and, you've clearly broken down lots of barriers. And to our audience, to you guys, I guess really, who are on that STEM journey, is just to keep going, be curious and courageous, which you guys have also demonstrated. And I guess if you're wondering whether you belong, the answer is yes, you do, because we've got the examples here really who should sort of be our role models and guide you. So I just want to really say a huge thank you for coming, to our panellists and to you guys from Luton Borough Council and from the university. It's certainly been really inspiring session. And I just thank you again to our panellists, and we should do it in a traditional way. So I guess go home inspired, curious, inspired, informed, and wishing you, good luck on your STEM journey.